Welcome. And so glad to have you if you're watching today on Elian's Joy. Welcome to this amazing episode today. I always have fun and lively and energetic and wonderful and amazing female guest. And we are on the WinWinWomen platform. So we are an interactive platform all over the world. You can also watch the replays on my YouTube channel, on everybody's YouTube channel, right? We have more than 10 plus podcasts where you can listen. And today we are live on Roku, Amazon, and Amazon Fire, and Apple TV as well. So I always need to make sure that I don't mix up those two, right? Hi, Julie. It's so good to have you today. I am so glad to have you on the show. I have Julie Kennedy. Julie is my guest, and she's a vibrant 50 pluser. Yes, we are passionate about inspiring women to be fabulous after 50. I love that. Fabulous after 50 to finally be heard and create a life of health and a life of wealth and a life of freedom whilst we have a lot of fun, right? We just like to have fun. That's how we know each other. We're friends.
Exactly. I was going to say
We're
that's
fun
what brought us
friends.
together.
Absolutely. You are British. You brought up in France. You've moved more than 25 times over various continents all over the world, picking up 5 languages on the way, and a wealth of cross-cultural personal skills that you add to your business degree and various coaching accreditations. So I love that we're going to talk about that a little bit. Julie fulfills her mission to help clients be heard through personal coaching, through editing, writing, and translating services. Right? Being all over the world, you speak 5 languages. You're promoting them on your podcast. I've been on your podcast on Fabulous
Yes.
After 50. So that was a lot of fun. And those are all being able, you can replay all those on Fabulous After 50 with Julie Kennedy on her podcast channel on YouTube. Julie is also a host, an interviewer, and moderator for the International Authority of Professional Coaching and Mentoring. So I love when you're going on that big stage every year and you're just twirling and flirling and dancing through life. Your mission is to inspire women to financial independence while taking the personal journey of a lifetime, of course. And you love to travel, you love to dance. I love those two things. I love people, adventure, just like you, and words and nature. So, Julie, welcome to the show. What can I add to that? Who is Julie? So glad to have
Wow. And I
you.
listen to
Thank
that,
you.
I think, oh my gosh, I sound so scattered, but then I don't really experience myself as that scattered. But I am indeed a lot of people and a lot of experiences. Um, but I think the great advantage, if I may go straight in with that, with being fabulous after 50, is that at some point you do recognize all the commonalities between all those different things. I am multi-passionate. I won't lie about that. It was quite recently that I actually really came to terms with that instead of wondering, why am I doing all of this thing? Is it ADHD? You start asking yourself all sorts of questions until you realize that no, there is a name for it. And there are some of us who are fulfilled through doing many different things. As in, when I write, I love being very solo. I like just being totally inside in the magic of words. When I'm, as you say, on those platforms, and it wasn't actually the IPCNM, those platforms, it was back then Global Woman, and it is now the Amsterdam
Oh,
Abundance
yes.
Summit, where you see me all over. That I love as well, that the crazy adrenaline, 9 hours on the stage, keeping
Yeah.
people motivated. And
Yes.
and when I translate for other people, I'm also then no longer really me. I try to, because I work mostly with non-native English speakers. So I really try to let go of who is Julie and really feel, okay, who are you? What is it you're trying to say, and what are the emotions behind your words, and who is it you want to reach? So it is a mixture, but surprisingly, in each one, I am very focused. And that's been quite a new realization, to be honest.
Yes, and we talked about that before. It is one of these things that I also kind of diagnosed with, you know,
Yeah.
multiple of everything. And I remember that I've tried so hard all my life to fit in the sense of just stay in that direction, just find a
Yes.
job, just do it,
Yes.
just stay there. And I can't do that because of such interest in so many different things and such passion and love for different things. So I'm kind of the same. I love to do
You
yoga,
are.
to be
You
busy
are.
with my health. I love to write. I love people. I love to present.
But
So
isn't
when
it
it comes
liberating
to
when we
that.
then stop asking? I mean, for a while, I guess, without being so outspoken about it, I was asking myself a little bit like, what's wrong with me? For example, so coaching is also one thing. So where somebody would come to me with an issue and I would be crystal clear in my questions, that they would then come up with their own strategy and they would say, oh, thank you. And I'm like, I can't do that for me because I don't know what else there is out there. I don't know if you know about human design.
Yeah. Yes. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I didn't actually know much about human design, and I interviewed somebody a while back, and she mentioned it during the interview. So afterwards, I sort of said, "What is it?" And this was a gift to thank me for the podcast episode. She did mine, and at first I was a bit like, "Okay, that's not how I see me."
Yeah.
I'm a very focused, very driven, very larger than life, and this was actually saying, "You're a projector.
Yeah.
You do not decide. You only work on invitation." You're the wise one, as in you know lots of things about lots of topics,
Different things. Yeah.
but you find it hard to choose one. I've always said, I can't niche because I'm also very good at this. And if somebody needs me, to coach, then I can help them with that. If somebody needs me to translate, I can help them with that. If somebody needs me to moderate one of their master classes, I can do that.
Yeah.
And I don't like to, just put myself in a box. You mentioned box and
Yeah.
label, and I think that's one of my biggest takeaways of the 50 plus, right? I was 57 2 weeks ago to the day, and I don't think I've ever felt actually so much like I'm starting to really understand who I am.
More
All the
like,
things that I
yes.
did for other people and all this self,
Yeah.
harassment, like why did you do that and stick to something and choose something and get better at it, etc. And now it's a bit like, no,
Yeah.
this is who
Yeah.
I am,
Yeah. And
right?
it is so you, and I so recognize it. It's scattered, and it's the people that are always
Yeah,
right. They,
yeah,
and yes, I had this element of being less fortunate at times, right? Or had less money because I wasn't in one
yeah.
direction.
Oh,
I didn't
definitely.
climb the corporate ladder. I
Yeah.
didn't do all that, but my interest was so broad. I just had to bring it back together. And somebody let me see it at some point, and he said, what is the outcome? What are you doing for people? And I couldn't
Oh,
come up with the answer because I was
oh,
so shy about seeing my worth.
yeah,
And I didn't have respect for what I was doing because I was diving into that sense of it's probably never going to be good enough. But,
right.
then he brought it back together and he said, you're the entertainer, you're the teacher, just bring it back
Exactly.
together. You're the edutainer, as Tony Robbins would say, right? But
Yeah.
it's really true. And it just now serves me, just like you said, in this time of my life, where I just see that coming, I am complete, right? Where I see that coming into one piece and
It's
really
work in
being,
progress, right? I mean, I'm still
yeah,
not completely there this summer. So I'm just back from 2 weeks of holiday, and I was doing a lot of self-love, which was interesting. And I found very hard at first, very hard. And I realized how harsh I have been on myself my whole life. It's not good enough and stick to this. And we are still nowadays, it is changing, but we are still a society which bases success on either your hierarchical rank within your company or how much money you've got or properties you own. And I've always hidden behind this. I'm a free spirit,
yeah,
money, I
yeah,
see
yeah.
it as the antipode of spirituality or of fun. Money comes with obligations and responsibility.
All
And I
about
was a bit like,
love. Yeah.
yeah, I don't want that. But at the same time, you think, yeah, I remember quite a few times thinking, yeah, but what about the Julie 10 years down the road? For now, you're surfing on the fact you have sometimes 4 or 5 jobs and this is natural energy. So it's not that I'm having to bring it up, but what about her 10 years down the road? Will she still be able to travel? Will she have a roof over her head? What if she gets sick? COVID was a big wake up call for me.
Yeah.
I have two of my close friends actually developed long COVID, and I'm like,
Mm,
oh, my business model is based on Julie Kennedy's energy. And
yes.
do I get paid when I'm sick or when I'm on holiday?
Yeah.
No, I don't.
No, we don't.
So
No.
that was a bit of a wake up call as well.
Yes. Yeah, that, and I also think it is just kind of unfortunate. I always have to, it is the wisdom that we get with age, right? In the sense of the free spirit of 20 years ago that I was. It was just really thinking I cross that bridge when I get there.
Yes,
And I
Yes,
cannot do that anymore. So I have to be proactive, just like you are
exactly.
doing right now about my self-care, my health, you know, my
Yep.
mental, physical, my whole
Yep.
being. I have to be
And
more
it's again
proactive
that little
and
girl
do
thing,
it.
you know, people used to say, oh, or even I would say, oh, I'm such a princess, until somebody said to me, Julia, princess is, you know, the daughter of, or, you know, you're not in your own right, as in it's still the little girl waiting to be saved. I'm a bit like, oh, well, you know, when I have no money, well, you know, somebody will save me, who
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
not quite
yeah, yeah,
sure,
yeah,
but, you know,
yeah.
somebody will save me. And it's about, no, it's about taking responsibility, owning all of who we are, right? And I'm not saying that we don't try to change certain things, but you know, you were talking about money. So I mean, I do, as you said, I do lots of things. So I mean, I was originally a management consultant with a business degree, but then you know, I moved every 3 or 4 years. My spouse was a diplomat, so then I would find you know something always there,
Yeah.
always to do with contribution, etc. And so I did a whole varied things, and my company then started going in different levels because I work on invitation. So at first I thought it was going to be a coaching company. I did all my coaching degrees, and then somebody asked me to edit something, and then it became very much an editing, and then
Yes, yes.
translating, and then hosting, and then this and this and this. But there was that money thing that you have just mentioned. And I think it was about 6 months ago, I'd been on one of my freebies, as in I'm super enthusiastic. So somebody asked me if I could help organize a conference.
Yes,
And I volunteered. I said, yes, yes, yes. I didn't
yeah,
negotiate money. I mean, now I do. So it did pay back in the end.
yes,
And at the end of the month, I had earned from you know, that month, 135 euros.
yes,
And
yeah,
that really was my line in the sand moment. You know,
yes,
I was a bit like Julie Kennedy,
yeah.
it's not one or the other. You know, so what is it? Is it self-worth? Is it
It
what
is
what is it that
self-worth,
you're not
I think.
asking for
Yes,
money? But
yes,
that's when I did actually do something which is very much not me, but I think in an attempt maybe to put myself on the spot and create some sort of responsibility. Is 6 months ago,
yeah,
I had been headhunted very many times by, you know, online marketing companies because I'm very visible. And I was always like, over my dead body.
yeah,
But this one did come exactly when, I mean, literally like the next day of the 135 euros. So I
wow,
was a bit like, okay, you know, somebody said, do you want to listen to a master class? And I was a bit like, okay, at this point, I'll listen to anything because something has got to change. So anyway, long story, but I did find something that I found was exactly along my lines. It has to do with water. So I'm very much a water girl.
health,
uh,
absolutely.
Health,
Mm.
it's very much about health. So it's
Yes,
about electrolyzed reduced water. It's all about, you know, these machines that you have in your own home, which, you know, radically change your health, etc. But it is still selling, right? I mean, it
yeah,
is still selling. But basically, the whole idea was, one of the questions they asked was, do you earn when you're not working? And then I thought, you know, I need to find something that will start also passively creating income.
yes,
Yes, I could do projects, you know, more programs, online coaching programs or whatsoever, but you know, you have to create them, you have to test them, you have to pay to have the tech done for them, etc. And to be honest, you know, at 56, I was getting a little bit tired with all of that. So I thought, well, maybe this is it. You know, it's a company which has existed for 50 years. The products are something that everybody wants. The
yeah,
compensation scheme is lovely. You know, the whole ethics and the whole, you know, helping and the duplication and automation and all of that is fantastic. So, you know, then you never really know what you do with life, right? So now I have that as well, which is something completely different. And I have needed to invest for it. So that was my putting myself on the spot.
yeah,
And
yeah,
I mean, to be honest, the last 6 months, the personal journey I've taken through coming to terms with myself as a seller as well, you know, it's been pretty phenomenal.
yeah,
But I wish that on all of us because, you know, we talk about fabulous after 50. And so I have these three lines, you know, the very important one was the
yeah,
be heard. So we could touch on that in a minute. But I'm always talking about freedom and, you know, I'm a free spirit and all of that until I really thought, but there is no freedom without financial
not
independence.
anymore.
No, there
Definitely not in the
isn't.
world we live. Definitely not in this world. No, there is
No, no,
no.
and we're not free if we don't have that. And even if we have a lovely partner. So, sure, when I was married, because I am now divorced, but when I was married, you don't think about it that much. We're all doing our own tasks, and I did
Yeah.
always work, but my job was very much
And then
the
there's the
second
kids and
one.
the
And of course,
house
we
and
were
yeah.
moving every 4 years, so already that takes a whole year of your life,
Yeah.
finding out the new place and all of that. But even when I have another wonderful partner who I actually happen to know, 40 past years ago, which is so weird. But still, do I want to be dependent on someone? Even if it's lovely and you're practically sure that you want to be together
That
till the
is a
end of your life,
big question for women
you're so
nowadays. Yeah.
vulnerable. You're
Yeah. Yeah.
so vulnerable. And I want more money. It's taken me ages to actually say the word because for me, money, our upbringing and our beliefs around certain things. I mean, I wasn't brought up to see money as a particularly good thing. Rich people, either they were criminals or they were nasty
Yeah.
people who were
Yeah.
abusing other people or whatsoever. But we're not even talking about rich, but to just have that abundance of not having a constant worry,
Yeah, have
of
to
not thinking,
have the freedom to make choices
yeah,
that you want. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
yes, it's the
yes,
choice,
yes,
isn't it? It's the choice.
yes.
And it can be also helping our family or our friends. I mean, I have 3 children and I would like to be there for them. I would like to leave them something. And all the projects in the world that I love and that I support by either doing freebies for them or whatsoever, I'd love to have more impact. I mean, I'd love to own something in the end. I never thought I
Or
would say
doing
that.
something, or going places with them, or helping
Exactly,
them buy
traveling.
something.
Because
Yes,
that's
and
exactly what I do.
exactly
So I
in
have a
that
good month
space.
with my business, and then I go and plan as far away as I can go. So
Yeah,
Thailand was the last one, or Chile, or
yeah,
Cuba, or whatsoever. And
yeah,
then for a few months after that, I'm a bit like, oh dear, oh dear,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
don't want this. I mean, I think I deserve more than this constant roller coaster.
And you do if you look back at all what you have invested in your life. But I learned that just recently, the last 5, 10 years, in the same way. We're really so alike when it comes to me living on a cloud, and somebody will come by and do something nice, and I'm always going to be taken care of. And I wasn't even in a situation that I was actually taken care of, but it was just a good sense of faith as well.
Right.
And I was always working. I could have 3, 4 jobs, but I wasn't putting and my own business basically all my life. I was an entrepreneur, but I didn't put value on what I was giving. I didn't put value on the outcome for others. I would,
Yes.
charge five
No
dollars
monetary
for
value
an
we're talking,
five
right?
dollars for an aerobic class or a yoga
Yeah.
class, or
Yeah.
for helping somebody who say, yeah, I know it's difficult for
Yeah.
you right now. I'll do it for free. But I wasn't really seeing that I had come this far with what I could help people with that would
Yeah.
help them also
Yeah.
thousands of dollars and to save thousands of dollars in the
Of
future if they
course.
would get my advice.
Yes.
I would help them with health, or not going to the doctors, or not having to spend on doctors
Yeah.
or medication, or feel better mentally, physically. So I didn't put any value on the outcome, and I didn't value myself.
Yes.
So instead of staying low, I learned that sales is not a dirty word, which I thought
Yes.
to service. Now I
Yeah.
replace it every time in my mind with service, and I have to
Exactly.
understand that it's not about me saying, "Oh, I'm so glad that they want me." I need to say, "I'm gonna do great things." So they
Yeah.
need
And it's an
right.
exchange, isn't it? It's an exchange of energy. So we know things. We have, whether it's through our studies, whether it's through our experience, whether it's through whatever it is that we are serving others with, it's an exchange. I
Yeah,
help you, you help me, and money is our medium of exchange. I think sometimes in a Julie ideal world, we would all barter, right?
yeah,
I
yeah,
remember
yeah,
a few
yeah, yeah,
years
yeah,
ago we
yeah,
did
yeah,
that.
yeah.
So, right, I was coming out of the divorce, I had zero money to do any, self-care facials and all of that. And I came across another Julie actually, and she'd just come out of a serious medical issue, but wanted to relaunch her beautiful, natural beauty salon,
Yeah,
basically.
yeah,
And so
yeah,
we made a deal. She said, I need you to help me structure this plan and get this back on. And with self-esteem, she'd taken, I think, 2 or 3 years out. So
yeah,
she wanted,
yeah.
and I was a bit like, oh, great,
She
then
wants
she
to
can
come. Yeah,
steam my face and do
yeah,
whatever it is she needs to do to make me glow. Um, But the thing is that our world isn't that world, right? We do need money. We need to pay rent. We need to pay groceries. And for most of us, it's not that you can go to the farmer and say, you know what, I'll teach English to your 6-year-old or help them with their homework and you give me my tomatoes and radishes. We,
Yeah, it
we
doesn't
can't
work
do that.
anymore. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, and it's more and more expensive nowadays, of course, for everybody.
very
And
much.
this
Yeah,
is going all over the world, so everybody can
yeah,
relate to
yeah.
that.
But
And we
it
can
is about
help each
self-worth,
other.
what you're saying. I
Yes.
think we women are harder with that. I think both you and I, we're very positive, naturally generous people, as in it makes us feel good to help other people. So we
Yes.
feel like, okay, well, we've had our reward.
Let's
It's
give
made
it
us
away.
feel
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
But at
Or
the end of the day,
sometimes
we
people will
do
say
need
to me
money.
like, well, isn't it normal that you just do that? I mean, I would help everybody.
Yeah,
Say,
yeah,
but no, coaching is a job and there's a
yeah,
certain structure to it and there's a certain
yeah,
way of work that
yeah,
we do and we have
yeah.
learned methods.
No, we've
There
learned
are
something
methods
exactly. We're
for it.
giving
We're
tools.
licensed and
Well,
we go
actually,
to
I remember
school
when
for
I
it.
actually got my coaching degree, and that was in 2009, with
Hmm.
distinctions, etc.
Yeah.
Somebody very, very close to me actually said to me, "But Julie, don't you think it's wrong to ask people money to help them?"
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's what I mean. That's what I mean. Yeah.
I was a bit like, yeah, well, sure, but when I go to the dentist, he
Yeah.
also helps me. Sure, I could ask you to pull out my tooth with the garden tweezers
Yeah.
or whatever.
You want
Um,
somebody with a
but
little
this
knowledge.
person's actually studied how
Yeah.
to do it with minimum pain and infection, etc. It's the same thing. I think, well, the coaching industry is slightly more dangerous because there are a lot of just well-meaning people who do
Yeah.
call themselves
And
coaches,
there's a
right?
lot of coaches that are also not certified. And I'm a
Exactly,
stickler
exactly,
for
exactly.
certified because I am a master trainer, so I can also certify people to become a
Yes.
coach.
But we've paid
We're
for that, right?
founder
We've invested,
international
we've done
system.
studies,
Yeah.
we've done
Money,
diplomas, we've
money,
paid
money.
money.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And
And yeah.
that's it. It's like when you go to school or you go to university or you go to up, up,
Yeah.
up, it's that it then normally opens the door to a higher salary. It's a reward for all the knowledge and expertise that we are then sharing with our
And that
guests.
we
But
have invested. Yes.
yeah,
And we have
but it's
invested
weird
all
that
that
it takes us, I think for men it's more, well, duh, yes. I think it's
time.
just we seem to complicate things, or maybe it's the nurturing instinct in women that we think that we should be doing that anyway.
Yeah.
Nobody really
Yes. I
pays
think
us
that
to
was for
look
me
after
actually.
children for 18 years. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
but isn't
that
it
was for
lovely
me
that we
actually
realize
indeed. It
that?
was the same thing as with just a yoga class going from $5 to the normal $20 rates
Yeah,
that, of what I help people with. And,
yeah,
but it was so natural to me. And I would say 10 years ago, I would still say, well, but we're just having fun. And my mentor said, well, what are they getting out of it, of being with you? Well, yeah, we're just having a good time. But
yeah.
I
But when you
wasn't thinking
break it
about
down,
lowering blood pressure and the health
yes,
effects and better sleep and better self-care and limb
exactly.
flexibility and mobility and the whole bit. So I wasn't thinking about the overall improvement of health of people
Right.
being with me and around me. And plus, yes, they were happier because I had tons of energy,
Yeah,
right? But I can't give that happiness away for free anymore
right.
either. We just
Yeah,
gotta put a price on it here and there.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
It's
absolutely.
interesting because I remember a few years ago, so I started my podcast. I used to interview on the radio here in Holland. There was,
Yeah,
'cause I live in Holland.
yeah,
There was a Dutch Buzz, it was called. So it's still called. It's the radio program for internationals here in The Hague. And I had my own slot called Passion and Purpose. And so I used to traipse around The Hague, interviewing people who did great stuff and asking them, what do you do and why do you do it? I loved this.
yeah,
But after a
yeah.
few years, I had to stop because it was a night slot and I got another job, etc. And I was missing it. And then, I was thinking, oh, but I miss that contact with all these amazing people. And I am curious. I mean, I should have been a journalist really in an ideal life because I love words and I love people.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah, yeah, yeah.
anyway, and then somebody said, well, why don't you have a YouTube channel? But it was just when COVID started. But all of this to say, so I did do my podcast, which is the Fabulous After 50 you've talked about. And then at some point, some people were starting to say to me, but why don't you charge for this? This is taking you how long and all? And I was saying,
Yeah.
well, in all, probably 3 hours an episode, the finding the person, the finding, who they are, going through all
The
their
faces,
paperwork,
meals, yeah, yeah.
editing, the artwork, blah, 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 blah. But so, at first I was like, oh gosh, no, but I can't do that. People don't do that. And then people started saying, yeah, but don't see it just as being on your podcast. Look at it as the promotional tool that they then have. It's all very professional with the artwork and the music and all of
Yeah.
that, that they
Yeah.
can then attach on their website. You know, we women in particular are
Yeah.
usually quite bad at speaking about who we are. So it's like an indirect way you stick that there and somebody else asks you, well, you know, what do you do and why do you do it and who are you and how did you get there,
Yeah.
etc.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it took me forever. It took
Mhm.
me forever to actually say, I charge. And even then, you know,
Yeah.
there's like a caveat in my client information thing where there's written, but I would be incapable of turning down a woman with a worthy message because my whole motto is you
Sure.
deserve
Sure.
to be heard. So then, of course, I'm already letting myself say, well, okay, then maybe not the full price or, you know,
Yeah.
so,
Yeah. Yeah.
but
Yeah.
still, it was a big step for me too to say, this is worth money
Yeah. Yes.
because they are
Absolutely.
getting the credibility, the visibility, not
Yeah.
just my audience, but putting it out there on their social media channel. So I
Everything
think
you
it's work in
organize, everything
progress.
you do, everything you plan,
Yeah,
everything you have your team do.
yeah,
Nowadays, I have starts or get better at seeing that the same way, right? I'm having a team, I pay other people to do things and make graphics and put music or put things behind things or organize everything. And most of the work comes down to me because we want to do it. So we have to start putting a value on that and start respecting ourselves. I think
right.
that has a lot to do with that,
So I'm
right?
saying it's all about the value that we have and you know, I mean, even though those conferences, I mean, now it opened the door, right? So that
Yeah,
first one,
yeah,
then that was it, you know, and you know, it was very clear that they were saying, you know, there's no way I could have done this without you, you know, different sort of brains, you know, the structure, and then of course I moderate as well on stage and that energy that I have and all that. And then
yeah.
you realize that, okay, it's not because it seems natural to me and I like doing it that other people would find it hard. I mean, I know lots of people who are there like, well, gosh, you know, it would be my worst nightmare being on
Hmm.
stage like that for 9 hours, moderating and having to analyze and be super sharp and all of that. Whereas to me, it comes naturally. But
Yeah,
it's not because it comes naturally that we shouldn't ask for something in return. But that
exactly.
is lovely with our age, isn't it? Is that we learn and it's funny because it's a mixture of maybe having a slightly more time to focus on us. So maybe, you know, for those who've had children, you know,
Hmm.
that they've now moved on or that, you
And
know, they're
moved
doing their
out.
own
Yeah, yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
You know, it tends to be a time where suddenly we do have more time for ourselves.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I find personally that it then becomes more and more about actually contributing. So it's on the one hand, knowing ourselves,
Hmm. Hmm.
knowing, okay, who am I really? Which part of me has just been trying to please everybody else around me and is not making me happy? But it's not, you know, somebody was saying to me the other day, but oh, but then it's so very selfish. So it's all about you. Now you're just looking at yourself. And I'm like, well,
That's
actually,
not
it's not.
selfish.
No,
No.
it's actually knowing,
No.
and I'm actually a Buddhist as well, so for a Nichiren Buddhist from the SGI, and basically there, what we say is that our life is all about our personal revolution.
Yeah.
So it's about us becoming happy in
Yeah.
order to then help other people. You know, it's again that oxygen thing, you know,
Exactly.
yeah,
Exactly.
and somebody miserable does not help other people. Somebody
Yeah.
miserable is the one who creates havoc in other people's lives or in the world, you know,
Yeah.
thing. It's when we are happy and when we have filled all of our needs, our inner needs. We're not talking about money and beauty and all that. We're talking about
Hmm.
what makes us feel
Good.
that we
That's
are, right? That we can be, that we can then give to others. So it's a wonderful period of our lives, I think. And that's why I call it fabulous after 50. It is
absolutely.
about discovering who we are and owning it.
Yeah. Owning it
That's
is
a big
another
one for
thing.
me.
And really working through it and getting to know yourself is also
Yeah,
time consuming. You are right. Although I have most of the time women around me, of course, that are entrepreneurs, right? Or that are
yeah,
in business. I didn't have time to think about me when I was in a corporate setting and I worked 50 hours a week, right?
yeah.
Plus. So even as 50 plus then, I just wanted that time back so much.
Yeah.
That's why I stopped it again. In 3, 4 years, I said, this is it. I'm just going to do my own thing because less income. Okay. But I need to have this because I'm just,
But we need to have a
who
life,
am I?
right?
What am I
Yeah,
doing? Yes. And how
yeah.
to put it out there. I
I
think
mean, it's exactly
also
that.
it's
You know, either
exactly,
you need the, either, you know, for the women who are corporate, they have the money,
Yeah.
But more and more are joining this sort of online business like the one that I'm with because
Yeah.
they're saying, well, fine, I've got the money, but I don't have the time to spend it.
Or
I,
what am I
I,
going
I
to do
want to
with
spend
it?
time with my
Yeah.
children or with my family or I want to travel. Where are the memories? That is more
Yes.
worthy than the money. And then, but entrepreneurs I find as well don't always have that reflex to try working on themselves because they're stressed and it's what else can I do? How else can
Yeah.
I reach
Yeah.
out?
That's
Because
true.
money is
That's
more of
true.
an issue,
Yeah. The other thing
right?
is
So
the
it's
drive
it's
of
not
how do we bring that in?
yeah, and
Absolutely.
not trading that time for money,
Yeah.
but having a totally new paradigm about there are new ways to earn out there, which are quite scary to a lot of people because they're new. Anything new is scary. It takes us outside our comfort zone. We worry about scams. And there are some out there.
Yeah.
There are
Yeah.
a lot of them out there. So I'm not saying to jump into the first thing that you hear, but it is to have that balance where yes, we need the money. Well, like we've just been talking about, I've got
Everybody.
to
Yeah.
stop saying,
Yeah.
oh, but I'm happy,
Yeah.
if
You're
I
happy.
yeah, right, because it's not true. We can never be fully
Yeah.
happy without being safe. And I
Yeah.
realized when I made this decision 6 months ago, I am not safe. I have no pension because I've been an entrepreneur for so long. I have no saving pot because each time I fall in love with a new trip, I then go and throw all my money in it because I'm a bit more, well, let's live in the moment. Let's create the
And you
memories
should
now.
think that way, like work hard and go really
Exactly, but
far
there are
away.
there are 50 shades of gray, right? It doesn't have to be just money to the grind, and it doesn't have to
Yeah.
be just freedom,
Yeah.
doing everything just for the fun of it. There is a middle way and a beautiful way, a way which is also ethical and, which creates value. And that's what we're waking up to right now. And you started something new. I've just started something new at 56. It's also that, you know, fabulous after 50, maybe, what, 50 years ago, that was the time when you were sort of quietening down, you were, knitting booties for your grandchildren or whatsoever, and just basically, well, waiting for the end. Okay, that sounds a little bit dramatic,
Well,
but
there's
more or
still a
less.
lot of people that are doing that as well, and maybe they don't
Yeah.
have that drive, or maybe they
But
don't
we
want
live so
to.
much longer now. Now, I would need to verify this, but I did read something the other day which said that it was based in the Netherlands, that the life expectancy for a woman in the Netherlands now is 93 and a half years old.
That is unbelievable. I think here in the United States, average is 88. And
It's
I just did
huge.
a convention for active agers that we call ourselves now, right?
That's
Which I
lovely. What a
love.
wonderful term.
55 plus active agers.
Yes.
We're all, so we have the largest group of baby boomers that are coming on in the United States, or maybe it's the world. I got to get my facts straight there too. But in other world, we have less young
Yeah.
people. In other words, and we're going to have a lot of people, right? 60,
Yep.
80, even in the
Yep.
90s, as you say, that are having the means, they have the time, they have the interest. We have lots more information. We
Now
know
they have the health and the energy. So,
health
they're a bit like, okay,
information.
what can
Yeah,
I do? Where can I
yeah,
travel? How can I
yeah.
contribute? How can
They
I?
still want
And I
to
mean,
work. Everybody still wants
yeah,
to work, and nobody wants a
yeah,
pension. Everybody wants to move on and do
yeah.
something to
And I
contribute.
think we have a very
Yeah,
important role to play as well. I was actually a man that I interviewed not so long ago about the role that we play as grandparents. Now, I'm not a grandmother yet, but could have been very easily. My eldest is 27. Um, it's the fact that often now parents are really stressed for time,
yeah,
right? They're running, running, running,
yeah,
running, everything.
yeah.
And now with social media, it's constant, constant, constant,
True.
constant. And there's a lot less that emphasis on, sitting together around the table, talking about things,
Conversation.
values,
Yeah,
all the values, and they're having time to make somebody feel good if maybe, say, a child had a bad day at school or somebody said something mean to them, where you bolster their self-esteem, their self-love. And that is the role that these new, modern,
yeah,
hip
yeah.
grandparents are playing, is that they are becoming, what we used to expect from parents, as
That
in the
support
value side,
system. Yeah, yeah,
exactly, the
yeah,
encouragement, the confidence,
yeah.
because otherwise that is lacking. And then it does make me, slightly concerned about newer generations brought up without values, apart from, looking good on social media. Okay, I'm being super harsh here, but,
No,
you
true,
know,
no, true, true.
there
I
is
think
a
the whole
different
tradition,
focus.
cultural background that we grew up with, and yeah, we're definitely active agers and very young, right? But it went so fast. in the
Yeah,
last couple of decades that from where you get your storytelling and you get your life story already from your grandparents, they pass that down. They pass traditional and cultural values down. You talk
right.
to them if you want to know, so you know, so you're going to get a real wise words.
Yeah,
You used to go to
yeah,
grandma and you would get it, or even in many cultures and many continents, generations living together. And we
yes,
miss that now. We're just Googling for the answers instead
yes,
of that original storytelling. And I had recently this experience with a storytelling webinar where people just really are forced to write their story down. What holds them back? What kind of pain did you have, trauma you went through? How did you work through it? And what is it now? Right?
right.
That's our story and our legacy. And we're just not even thinking, we just don't have time to think. It's
No,
like
exactly. Yeah.
running, right?
And we
Run,
don't have time
run.
for each other. And these parents do not have time for their children to listen to their pains. It's a bit like, I mean, I even remember myself, I have three, a bit like, okay, not now, darling. And yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes, I will listen to you, but later. And then suddenly they're at the age of adolescence where they don't actually want to talk to you.
Yeah, or when
And
is
you're
it
thinking,
later? Yeah.
like, is that
Yeah.
the sort of mother that I want to be? I remember that was, I think it was during my coaching training as well. And there's this wonderful exercise by one of Stephen Covey's books. And it's about literally walking through a church and you see a
Yeah.
coffin there. And actually, you realize you're the one in the coffin and three people talk. So one is somebody who works with you, one is one of your children or family
Children.
members, and one is a friend. And what
Yeah.
are they saying? And I
Yeah.
remember the projection of what my children were saying was all about, oh, she was incredible, super full of energy. She was always busy.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, do I want my children to say that about me? And I
Uh,
thought, no, I do
I'm
not.
guilty. I'm guilty. My son would tell you that mom didn't
Yeah,
cook and just bonjour me
yeah,
upstairs, to go
yeah,
do
exactly,
something.
exactly. And sure, it's
Fortunately,
great
my
to be busy and
coaching,
it's great to be a role model for our
yeah,
children that we can
yeah,
do lots of things and be lots of things. But I would always want those, well, everyone basically, but certainly those dearest to me to know that I made time for them,
yeah,
to
yeah.
really listen to
Yeah.
them, to
And
not
and you
just,
can make up. I make up, and I made up during, especially during my son's teenage years, for instance, or more conversation and quality time, not quantity
yes,
because oh well, obviously I wasn't driven on, having
yeah,
an every night, but it was more into okay, now we're gonna sit down, let's coach, let's
yeah,
do this live thing, and that became more intense, and I started
yeah.
really liking that,
But it's
right?
so
Yeah,
needed.
yeah,
And you do need to be flexible because what I noticed with mine is it's not like, like a partner or so where you say, okay, at 8 o'clock tonight, let's sit down, light the candles, open a bottle of wine, and let's talk about what's really bugging us. No, you can't do that with teenagers. They choose when they're open to talk. And
yeah,
I mean, my experience was they would talk a lot easier, for example, if I was driving the car. So I wasn't, staring intensely at them,
yeah, yeah,
or walking,
yeah.
where the conversation then it's like it just happens, right? En passant. And that's when the real stuff would be said.
Yes,
But
yeah.
but that's why I was saying that as young grandparents, we do have a role to play in there as well for the future generations, listening to them, helping them work out, what really matters and what doesn't really matter. And it's a lovely role to have. It doesn't make me feel old.
No, not at all. It's more like a fun wisdom or a fun
Yes,
share.
yes,
Absolutely. And getting the chance to do so. Absolutely. And I'm glad you brought that up because, yeah, I'm not really feeling grandma either, but I think that's really what I would like to do is sharing stories, being there. And
yeah.
then and a downside of that is that some parents and grandparents are filling that in with activities. And that's been one of my pet peeves lately that I see around me a lot, that kids constantly have to be entertained.
A lot
So
of
they have the
doing, right? A
soccer
lot
game,
of
and then
doing.
the next
Yeah.
day they have band, and then the next day they have
No, I
another
agree.
sports, and they're there, but there's
Yeah.
still no communication because the kids are needing to do something all the time,
Yes.
right? And I was very
Very true.
good at sending my son just in his quiet time and say, okay, I cannot do it right now, but if you don't mind, just be alone for a while.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
They need to
I
learn
mean, the
to be
value of
alone
boredom, the
and not
wonders of boredom,
constantly
what you
entertained.
discover,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah,
And
yeah.
just that drawing, or even, nowadays, no, a thing isn't a toy if it's not digital.
Yeah.
right? I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
imagine the
Yeah.
joys before of
Yeah.
just, I remember painting pieces of macaroni to make a necklace or
Yeah.
playing
Yeah.
with
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
stones and mud in the
Flowers.
garden. You
Yeah.
need nothing, but I think children nowadays would develop that of themselves, like children do. Like you
They
still
will.
see,
They will.
obviously,
Yeah.
in countries where the means are not as high, where children do still play with sticks and stones and little
Sure.
animals that they find in the garden. I think it is innate in a child to find something to play with. But the problem now is that we give them all this stuff or we create all this do activities. So
Yeah.
there's no more, how can I entertain myself?
Yeah.
I mean, I used to
It's
say to my
almost a
children,
feel good
only
for the
boring people get
parents.
bored. That's what
Yeah.
I used to say to my children. Only boring people get bored. I
Yeah.
said, if you can create
True.
fun out of anything. Look at the clouds.
Absolutely.
I can spend hours imagining all sorts of animals in the clouds
Lay
or
on your
whatever.
back in the grass and do that. Yes,
Right,
yes, 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 yes.
right.
Yeah, yeah. I think the problem is that it's a parent feel good thing or a grandparent, all the family. It's also about making us feel good because, yeah, we're there at the football game and yeah, we're there the next day at band, but we still don't have interaction. We are
No.
there and that is amazing and that's important. But yes, boredom needs to be filled
And
with
just space where there's nothing.
creativity,
Just
fantasy.
sitting around the table and seeing what comes up.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Use your fantasy, use your imagination, create
Yeah.
something. Absolutely. I love to have this conversation with you today. This is
Nice.
completely in a different direction than we thought we were going to go. We're going to talk about health and wealth. Well, we kind of did. We kind of did.
No, but
We
it
covered
is.
them
It is.
both.
I mean, wealth,
Absolutely.
we did talk about the fact that, we need to honor ourselves and
Yeah.
our self-worth and there's absolutely, wealth is an energy and we
Yeah.
need it and we owe it to ourselves to be financially free. And I talked about the online business that I'm affiliated with.
Yeah.
And we did talk about health, about perhaps not in detail, but certainly about, action, doing
Yeah.
sports, being
Stay
in
busy
nature.
doing things. Yeah.
And some of us are more than others. I do need sports. That is what keeps me on the one time calm and gives me the energy, whether it's
Yeah.
running or swimming, but it's the bliss of doing it without
Now you're
any.
swimming in the ocean in the morning.
I swim in the ocean in the morning, but I
Oh,
also do that in
right.
winter. I'm a bit of a diehard, but less long, let's say. But it's also about the beauty of doing it for the pleasure of doing it, right? I love running, but it's so wonderful to run now without training for a half marathon and I've got to do
Yeah.
intervals now. If
Mhm.
I want to stop and take a flower, or if I want to stop and sit on that bench and
Yeah.
admire the sea,
Yeah.
I
Do
do
it.
it.
Do
But
it.
it is that action, and it's all about what's in our head, right? I mean, you and I, we don't feel old. I
No.
still am waiting to find out what I'm going to be when
Just
I
a
grow
number.
up. Yeah,
Just a number. Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah. And we have
yeah,
that ability now to measure these things and to feel that inner, kind of people, peace and happiness and joy. That's all about
yeah,
Elian. Joy is all about joy, right?
exactly.
Finding that and doing wonderful things for ourselves that keep us, we have the information. People know how to find you. People know how to find me. When it comes to coaching or sharing a bit of wisdom or getting some listening ear, or in your case as well, writing and editing services, which is amazing. People go find, ladies, I should say, go find Julie because of her wealth of knowledge of languages and helping you
Yeah.
write and
And
helping
I
you
love that
edit.
because we all have a story
Absolutely.
to share, right?
Yeah,
We
yeah,
all have a message. And
yeah,
and speaking a different language than English should never hold us back. And what I always say to my clients is that, orally everything goes, but written, we do judge a book by a cover. And if I read something and there's like 25 mistakes in the first paragraph, I switch off. So I mean, I help them
I
also
like
just
that.
get that
Yes.
part right.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So much wealth
Oh,
we
I
have
love
to
it.
share as
Yes.
as 50 plus, but it's to take responsibility, to take action on the things that we do need to
Yeah,
change, to look after ourselves physically through nature, through beauty,
yeah,
through relaxation, meditation, whatever it is, but to not forget the money. And if that means finding a different way of earning money online or however, I like it online because I like moving. So for me, it was important to make that money, but where and when I wanted. And that's what brought me to what I do. So we have talked about wealth and health, and we could talk about it a lot more.
we can talk forever. Obviously, we can talk forever. I'm going to close it out, and gosh, I just love you, soul sister, right here.
You are.
I
Thank
would
you.
like to close with saying, yeah, give me just a last word for people or a last quote that you would like to close with, if you have something that comes up, and tell me where we can find you. Absolutely. And I
Right. So
want
I
to
don't
have
know. I
all
haven't
that
even thought
information.
about a last quote. That's a hard one, but I would say know yourself and own yourself sort of thing,
Oh, I
right? I
like
mean, I've just
that.
made that one up, but it really is know
Yes,
who you truly are, know what
I
makes you happy, what you're here for, and own all the rest. It's
love
very
that.
liberating. So know yourself and own yourself and how you can find me. It's very simple. So I have a website, which is www.thekennedy, that's my name, it's an easy one, connection.com. And there you can find out about anything. You can find out about the health
The website
products.
is
You can find
great.
out about
Yes,
the online business, the coaching, the writing, the editing, the hosting. And I would just love to hear from you. I believe that connection and communication make the world go round, and
absolutely.
rich we get richer through sharing experiences like this. So, Elian, thank you very much for having invited me here. So, you're the beginning of the day. For me, it's now 8:45 at night
I
on a
know, it's
Saturday.
crazy. Yes,
Yes.
yes, yes,
So, I think
yes.
I'm going to go and allow myself a gin and tonic or something totally
Absolutely.
outrageous.
Cheers. I'm going to go have an afternoon at the winery and I will just cheers one on you.
Now, that
Absolutely.
sounds
Oh,
exactly. Let's enjoy life and let's make it happen. Thank you very, very much. All
thank you,
the
love,
best to you
so
all
much.
out there. Love to hear
Enjoy.
from you.
Everybody, find me
Bye.
next week at Elian's Joy. Thank you, Julie. Julie
Thank
at
you.
thekennedyconnection.com. And we'll find you and we'll find everything on all the replays. So there's all your information for you. I will see you next week. Thank you so much for listening or watching today. Bye. Love.
Thank you.
Have a great
Bye.
evening. Bye.